where they can't do that. Perhaps that would have been an incentive for Russia to end the war.
But the opposite is happening, that Donald Trump is given them at this crucial moment, as you paint it.
The opposite is happening in these past 2 weeks. We've seen a shift. You know, the idea that the Russian economy is down this year is not looking likely right now, unfortunately. And that has, you know, changed the game. But on the battlefield, again, the Ukrainians are doing extremely well.
But what does that tell us, I suppose, about President Trump's attitude towards Ukraine and to Russia? Many people, they'll look at that and think, well, Donald Trump is siding with the leader of Russia over Ukraine.
I think the foreign policy of the current administration is basically based on two pillars that we see in the national security strategy from November 2025. One is MAGA, and that's very ideological. So there's this resentment of global institutions, of international rules, and also of the European Union, as a matter of fact. And in general, this international cooperation, the idea is that let's park that aside. And then the other strand on this national security strategy, which is obviously the strategy of the administration, is America first. And that has a pecking order in the strategy. Number one is the Western Hemisphere. Number two is the Indo-Pacific. And only number three is Europe. Number four is the Middle East, which is now changing, I guess. And then number five is Africa. And that's the reality that we have to live with the current administration. So I always say that, and again, as a pro-American, pro-transatlanticist, you know, live in a world or do your foreign policy in a world that exists, not a world that you wish would exist.
You're here in London. Clearly, a lot of focus on Keir Starmer's relationship with Donald Trump. It had been, despite their political and, you know, personality differences, they had been getting on very well. Now in a situation we've got the US president describing Keir Starmer as no Winston Churchill, criticising the UK for not becoming more involved early on. What's your advice to Keir Starmer on how to deal with that relationship?
Well, you have to understand that the relationship that many of us have with President Trump does oscillate. You know, you have good days, you have bad days, so don't take everything so personally, I think is my message. I don't give any advice.
There's clearly a lot of concern in the UK, as there is in Finland and across the world, really, about the impact on the cost of living, the immediate impact, rising oil prices, and the longer-term cost of investing in defence, as you're talking about. People often ask, you know, when is the cost of living crisis going to end? When are we going to get through all this? Are those days over where we didn't have to worry about those things? Actually, life is going to be harder.
Foreign policy or the economy is never an end state. It keeps on oscillating all the time. And right now, you know, we are in a worse place than we were, say, 10 years ago. There's no denying that. And we're seeing in this world of disorder an increase in conflicts, and these conflicts then have an impact on oil prices. They might have on inflation, on interest rates, and the rest of it. So we need to figure out, when we have security pressure coming from the East and Russia, and a transition from the West with the US administration, how do we best work together so that we can get over this cost of living crisis?
So to return to where we began, and the idea of rebalancing the new world order, is it possible to get to that while you still have Donald Trump in the White House?
I think it's possible to work towards that. And the example that I give...
Like a no.
No, it is. No, I'm a realistic optimist, right? So, and I try not to over-rationalize the past or history, but there was something called the San Francisco moment, right after World War II, where they created the United Nations, and nations came together and agreed on a certain set of rules and norms and charters. Why can't we do that again? In a world where AI is predominant, technological revolution in general, where there are conflicts, and where we're not even talking about the climate crisis. So let's get back to the drawing board and try to solve these things together rather than going our separate ways.
Thank you for listening to The Interview. You'll find more in-depth conversations on The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN, plus many others. Until next time, bye for now.
This is the BBC World Service, where Alok Jha is telling the story behind India's journey to the stars.
In recent years, India has leapt from weather and communication satellites to world-leading interplanetary missions.
We have dared to reach out into the unknown and have achieved the near impossible.
Now the country has set its sights on the most daring target yet, human spaceflight.
Within a couple of years, we will see that our own astronauts will be flying in our own capsule, in our own rocket.
But how has India reached this point, seemingly out of nowhere? Why has the government decided to prioritize space exploration? And what benefits will it bring to Indians?
Hope and fear, India's space revolution. Saturday at 12 GMT.
Coming up on World Business Express in 20 minutes, what's it like trading oil as the conflict involving US, Israel and Iran drives price swings? We'll also head to Bangladesh as an energy crunch bites and look at what Nigeria's president's UK visit could mean for business. Before that, today's Business Daily is about how people are finding cheaper ways to stay in touch across borders. But first, the latest BBC World News.
BBC News with Eileen McHugh. Israel has carried out airstrikes on an Iranian petrochemical complex on South Pars, the world's largest natural gas field. Fire teams were dispatched to contain the blaze. Iran and Qatar, who share the field, condemned the attack as dangerous and irresponsible. Iran has confirmed that its Minister of Intelligence, Ismail Khatib, has been killed in an Israeli strike. The Israeli military said Khatib had played a key role in the arrest and killing of thousands of anti-government protesters earlier this year. Large crowds have attended the funeral of Ali Larijani, the national security chief assassinated by Israel yesterday. The US-Israeli war against Iran has been criticised by European allies. The German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has said he would have advised against it had he been consulted, but he wasn't. The Iranian women's football team has arrived back in Iran from the Asian Cup in Australia after 5 members withdrew asylum claims they had lodged there. 2 players have opted to remain in Australia. A Polish court has ruled a prominent Russian archaeologist can be extradited to Ukraine, where he's alleged to have carried out illegal excavations. He's accused of plundering the ancient Crimean city of Myrmikion. Pakistan has said it's temporarily halting military operations against Afghanistan ahead of the Muslim festival of Eid al-Fitr. It comes as Islamabad faces intense scrutiny over its airstrike on a drug rehabilitation centre in Kabul on Monday that left more than 140 people dead. And rhinos have returned to the Kadepo Valley National Park in Uganda more than 40 years after poachers wiped them out. The state-run Uganda Wildlife Authority is overseeing the relocation of 2 southern white rhinos. BBC News.
You're with Business Daily from the BBC World Service. I'm Matthew Kenyon, and today we're talking about calling home.
Being able to touch base with my parents, with my siblings, with my close friends meant everything to me.
Keeping in touch when you live thousands of miles away, especially if your loved ones don't have a reliable internet connection, is important, difficult and expensive.
At the end of the day, international calling is for telcos a milking cow.
Which is why there's a proliferation of apps aimed at bridging the gap, using the internet to reduce the costs of an international conversation, but still allowing calls to landlines and basic mobiles. And it's not just about the calling.
Integration is a huge challenge. All cultures face that problem, but we are very aware of the ones faced by Africans.
Staying connected across Africa, Europe and beyond. On Business Daily from the BBC. Nigerian entrepreneur Oluseyi Akiniboson lives in The Hague, and he's checking in with his mum back home.
Hello, Mommy. Ẹ káàárọ̀.
Káàárọ̀, ṣàlàáfíà ni.
Adúpẹ́ mà. Mommy mo ń ṣe BBC interview.
He's not making a regular international call, and he's not using WhatsApp or FaceTime because his mother doesn't have reliable mobile internet.